Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, for all her faults, does seem to be the only cabinet minister who has some understanding of why fans at England football matches, indeed other football matches, are booing the taking of the knee. She says she doesn't approve of the taking of the knee, and she backs the fans for booing. Hooray for her. Let's have a little listen to that.
And it has been agreed that the players would take the knee, and you heard the reaction again. The players' message unanimous and unwavering that there is no room for racism, a message in which they rightly believe, despite another adverse reaction from an element of their support.
Let's welcome to the show social commentator Calvin Robinson. Good evening, Calvin.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
Very, very well. Now, you heard that. That wasn't an element of the crowd, was it? It was most of the crowd were busy booing the players as they took the knee. That wasn't the actual England game the other night. That was another occasion. But this is now a regular event at every single football match now that they're letting the fans back in. The fans are not booing anti-racism. They're booing the players grovelling to Black Lives Matter. Priti Patel, alone among cabinet ministers, seems to understand that. Why can't the rest of them understand it?
Absolutely. Priti Patel's quite good at this, isn't she, though? She tunes into what normal people are thinking quite often when we want to see people be tough on crime or kind of stand up for non-woke, normal common sense values, and she gets that. So she's speaking her mind. I don't know if she'll get in trouble for it, but it was great to hear her say it. And I think, it's also great to hear these fans booing the footballers for taking a gesture to a neo-Marxist organisation.
Yeah, my point or my stance on this, Calvin, is if these footballers really, really do think it's going to make a massive difference to make some sort of gesture against racism, go right ahead. But make that gesture to kick it out, the anti-racism organisation within football that was there before Black Lives Matter even existed, or to anything else. Just say we are against racism. Do not do it to Black Lives Matter. Why can't Gareth Southgate and the FA understand that that is what the problem is? It is the grovelling to a mad political organisation that wants to defund the police, destroy capitalism and smash the nuclear family. That's what we don't want. Why can't Boris Johnson now, he says we shouldn't be doing it. Why can't Gareth Southgate, why can't he understand it? Why can't the FA understand? That's what they're booing. Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely. It's quite simple, really, isn't it? And all these people saying they don't understand why fans are booing, or maybe it's because fans are racist. I think they're being disingenuous, to be honest with you. I don't think they're being 100% truthful with it, because it's quite clear. In games like last year, we saw Millwall, for example, when fans were first allowed back into stadiums, we saw them booing when footballers took the knee, but then they came out with an anti-racist placard and fans supported them. So it's clearly not about being against anti-racism. Most football fans these days are anti-racist. In fact, I don't even like to use that term. Let's just say they're not racist, because anti-racist has many different connotations. Most people are not racist, okay? And they're trying to divide us into the anti-racist versus the racist. And I don't think that's real life. And most people don't support Black Lives Matter anymore now that we know what they're all about. We got it at the beginning. We're like, yeah, of course Black Lives Matter. Of course they do. But now we've seen what the organization is like. It's a neo-Marxist movement, as you rightly said, against the family structure, against the police force, against our values as a country and as a Western society. Of course, people are going to be upset if you're kowtowing and taking a knee in subjugation to an organization like that. And to not understand it, or to pretend to not understand it, is just insincere. Even if you don't understand it and you see the fans booing, you're like, okay, something's going on here. That's the time to readdress what you're doing. You rightly mentioned Kick It Out, a campaign I was involved with over 10 years ago. They've been going for about 20 years now, I believe, in football, having a lot of success, changing the shape of a game that was once quite racist, I'll give them credit, but has come a long way. They've made progress. So why not support an organization like that? Why jump on the bandwagon of a political movement like Black Lives Matter that is the name's tarnished the anti-racist movement. And so people like me who've been fighting racism for a long time won't even use the term anti-racist anymore. That's how bad things have gotten because of Black Lives Matter.
And think about it, Calvin. What has the players taking the knee achieved? They've been doing it now for about 14, 15 months. By their testament, racism in the game is now worse than it was 15 months ago. So what has taking the knee achieved?
Well, exactly. And recent YouGov polls show that racism in general is worse than it was 18 months ago. Race relations in this country have dipped downhill since Black Lives Matter, and we were making so much progress. The country was, becoming colorblind. We were all working together, focusing on people's character, not the color of their skin. And this whole movement has tipped that upside down by dividing people based on the color of their skin. This idea that white people are inherently evil and black people are the good guys in every situation. It doesn't work like that. Life is not like that. And this movement has made things worse. And now the fans are finally getting back in the stadium, and they're saying, enough is enough. We don't want your woke nonsense. We get it. We're all against racism, but this is not the appropriate way to do it. Thank you very much. We paid good money to be here. Get off your knees.
Yes, and I don't know if you watched the match the other night, the Croatia game, the England-Croatia, I'm sure you did. So the BBC came out with a brilliant solution. So there was going to be this very controversial moment when the players took the knee, and the fans booed. So we waited with bated breath to see what would happen. First of all, Southgate had obviously told the players, right, take the knee, but make it fast. I mean, they were down and up in about 1 nanosecond. And then, as this moment unfolded, sure enough, the fans did boo. And what did the BBC do? They didn't even mention it. They didn't mention that the team was taking the knee, and they didn't mention that the fans were booing. They acted like it didn't happen. That was news censorship by our state broadcaster. Extraordinary.
It's like denial at this point, isn't it? Because they're doubling down on the doubling of the knee. Like, no, we've made this decision. We're taking this statement. Even though everyone's against it, we're going to keep doing it, and we're going to deny what's going on. And the BBC does this a lot, don't they? We've seen massive protests in London against things like the lockdown, and they haven't reported on it. So protesters have gone and protested right outside the BBC's HQ, and they've still refused to report on it. They have their own political agenda at the BBC these days. They're run by a woke, metropolitan, liberal elite, and they want to shove that social justice warrior message down our throats. And if Black Lives Matter is a way to do it, they will support them all the way and not cover any alternative viewpoints or any alternative perspectives, which is why you guys are so great, and it's so important to have these conversations transparently and openly, because other outlets don't want to do it.
It should not be within the remit of any journalist, any serious journalist, to take a point like what happened the other night. It was the talking point of the week. Everybody was talking about why is the England team taking the knee, and will the fans boo? Gareth Southgate, please don't boo us. Even Boris Johnson, disappointingly, having at first refused to comment on the issue, thereby tacitly giving his support to the supporters who boo, he came out in the end and characteristically buckled and said, no, you mustn't boo. Everyone told, don't boo, don't boo, don't boo. So this moment was the key news moment of the week. BBC's solution, don't mention it. You can't do that. That's not journalism. That's censorship.
Absolutely, it's censorship, and it's pushing forward your own political agenda rather than reporting on the news. They're trying to create it in their own narrative. That's not appropriate. It's not okay. And thankfully, Priti Patel stood up for her values, stood up for her principles, and said what needed to be said. And you're right, Boris Johnson did buckle. He buckles far too often. It's becoming a habit. It's not what we want from a prime minister. We want a leader who's going to stand up and say, we're not a racist country. This is a fantastic place to live for anyone of any race, any religion. Doesn't matter where you come from. If you come here, you become British. We're all one. This flag and the Union flag and Her Majesty the Queen unite us, and we'll focus on these things that bring us together and stop letting people divide us based on our immutable characteristics, like the color of our skin, our sex, our gender, our sexuality, and all these things that are unimportant in our modern life in Great Britain.
Yeah, and by the way, the fans booing taking the knee is an expression of their freedom of speech. And no one should stop them doing that. They have the right to express their opinion in a boo. And that's what a lot of people don't really realise, to suppress them from doing that, to say you can't do that. And don't forget, people have been arrested for this. People have been banned from grounds for their whole lives for this. That is an assault on freedom of speech.